Hey guys, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. I'm glad you're here. Today we are going to finish up Apache case number 4, my final folder knife case. That'll have everything up to this point kind of categorized in the playlist called Collection Dive 2024. And then we'll move on to fixed blades. So without getting into it, I just want to say thank you to the channel members. Thank each and every one of you. And thank any of you who've come in to check out the knife, the EDC content. I really appreciate you taking time to give me the time of day. So this is the kind of the front, or the second row, about 3/4 of the second row, and the front row. So the first knife that is in this case that I really like, it could easily be in my high-end import case. I just ran out of place. This is my quiet carry Waypoint, 100% rust-proof knife. I think the scales are LC N200. You got the liners. You got G10 scales. You've got Vanex super clean steel. You've got a very thin blade stock and a super thin behind the edge, just to give you an idea of the blade stock. And we won't spend a lot of time measuring these because they all have reviews. 0.0890 at the spine. So for a rust resistant rough weather knife, this guy is a lightsaber. It's got a nice clip point blade, nice little gradual belly. It is on washers. It does drop shut. I'm not very good at reverse flicking it. The thumb studs are a little too tight there, but in terms of thumb flicking, which is not my favorite way to open a knife, this one does very well. I've started to put some of my traditional bearing knives on washers because the more I use a washer knife, and I use Slick-em-all, not to give Justin too much of a shout out there, but I really do like the Slick-em-all that OCD for EDC makes. I find it great for washings. Washers don't use it that much for bearings. But this is the quiet carry Waypoint, G10 and Vanex, fantastic knife, and it lives in case number 4. Moving on, we have a knife that used to live in the USA case, and I had to make room for some other knives, and this one made it to my overflow case. This is a great knife, guys, and this is one of my larger Benchmades. This is the Benchmade Freek, not the Mini Freek, but this is the Freek in M4 G10. You've got these red liners. You guys have probably all seen it, and the red studs. You've got ergonomics that make this knife, to me, a wonderful tactical full-size knife. You've got the jimping that goes right up here on this little bit of harpoon that locks your hand in. It's got a deep carry clip. I think it came with that I don't feel in my hand. You've got nice wide scales that kind of remind me, I forget that older knife. Shane used to be in love with it. But it's these sculpted G10 that are kind of contoured. It's got, for the axis locks, with the exception of my Adamas, Mini Adamas, this one is as smooth. I've got the pivot kind of tight on it because I like it being snappy. But it's a full-size knife. Never been sharpened. An absolute laser beam. My buddy, A to Z EDC, had one of these knives, this exact knife. He does a lot of selling on eBay of other stuff and knives, but he put it up, not really expecting to get that much for it, and it's sold on eBay for $310. I guess, like new in-box knives, certain knives like Benchmades, where the price has gone up a good bit, if you can find a knife, I think I paid well under $300 for this. And again, it's a full-size knife. It's one I take camping, I take hiking. I don't carry it to the office much. 8.5 inches. Over 3.5 inch blade. 5-inch handle. If you want to hold it behind that little trigger, you're at 3 3/4. When I say trigger, I mean right here So from right here to right here is 3 3/4. You can choke up on it. I can. I don't have sausage fingers. That's just a sharpening choil, and it could be better. The plunge grind does stay wide out to close to where that edge is, but it's M4. Again, I'm one of those guys that don't use my knives super hard because I've got other knives I rotate through. But the Bench Freek is a great knife. It was one of my favorite Benchmades. Still is. I've just kind of lost luster for the axis lock in some cases. In some cases, the bar lock, like in Vlasti's case, excites me. This knife's great. It's a great cutter, great tool. Moving on, we come to a very unconventional knife. And I did not want to do a separate utility knife video, so I just incorporated some of these that I keep in this case. This is a handmade custom. This is by a company called Teal Design Works. They sell on Etsy. They have some very unique designs. They do little fixed blade razor knives. This one's got a similar lock, except when you take it apart, you'll see that it's not like a shark lock. But you just pull back on that and give it a little flick, and it perfectly locks open. All of this is made by hand. None of it is machine assisted. It's driven by washers. You can tell how the washers are spaced out in there to make it work. If you wanted to swap out a blade, which this will take many different types of blades, you just take out this screw right here. Where is my driver? The screws look daunting, but they're not, because if I'm not mistaken, only one has to come out. Is that a T8 or is that a T6? T6. All right. So all you do, and this has got a little lock ring behind it. Push down on it real hard because these are machined very well. You've got the little lock ring to keep it in place. Maybe this one does have to come out. Let's see what happens. And we'll see if I can put a tool steel blade in here. I did not mean to do this, guys. I'm not trying to waste your time. I've just never switched the blades out of this one. All right. So we want to sandwich it in between there. Let me grab these are the ones that aren't the SK5 size. They're just a basic construction size. And they have typically, and may not, fit in this knife. But these are Carter Max blades. They're Fiskars Pro. They're kind of expensive and they're supposed to be better blades. However, they've got a much shallower set of catches there. So what I'm going to see is, if we put this bad boy in here, is it going to work? And my initial thought is maybe. Let's see, because I like it to go all the way back, but I might have to take it up a little bit. Let's see what happens. And guys, I apologize. I know this was not part of our little tour here. But no, see, that's not going to let it go. Let's see what happens if we... I think this may do it. Let's see. Really well put together. You can tell there's not a lot of machine aided. I don't think this is going to fit because I think my threads are going to be slightly impeded by that tool steel blade, which is not a big deal because I'm going to go grab a different blade from a different manufacturer that I ordered off Amazon. Let's see if this goes in. Whoops. And guys, I promise I will fly through the rest of these knives. I did not think this was going to take so long. Yeah, that one's going to go in, but not happily. All right, so now we've got that knife, that blade in. Let's see what happens when we shut it. It's not getting anywhere close to that bottom. Got a fresh, different blade in there. The little Fixies. This knife's made in the USA. He also makes pry bars. I have not taken it apart to really check it out. I'd kind of like to do that because I'm curious to how he's put all this together. Because it is definitely a cool knife. What I can't do is I cannot thumb flick it because of that spring. The only way I've been able to open it is either slow roll it or more easily just flick it. But this is the Teal Designs razor knife. I picked this up on Etsy. I want to say right around 85 bucks, but it is handmade. I will take it apart because I think it only warrants it for science. But yeah, very cool knife. We will put that up. And guys, I'm about to have to start digging under Tippy for knives because she is sleeping on my knives. But next up, we have the best value of any knives. My Maxace, all my Maxaces have been fantastic values. My Black Mirror was under $150. My Babylon, which is one of my favorite button locks, was around $260. And this is the Maxace Neptune. This is a full size out the front. Mine's a single blade. They also make it in a dagger and a serrated dagger. So the knife is about 5 1/8 inches. If you measure it from the little glass breaker lanyard hole, it's 5 1/2 inches. It's an aluminum bodied knife, and it's got this nice grip that's recessed into the aluminum handle. So it sits down in there, which means when I go to slide it in my pocket, it does not catch that, but yet it gives me texture. So this knife goes in and out of pocket like a dream. It has got thunderous action. I've opened and closed this knife very close to 1,000 times, and it's not failed once. It uses a kitchen type of blade steel called SD Magic, but they use a San Mai treatment to wrap it. And what I found is, of all the out the fronts I've got, which is not a lot, I've got my Riot manual out the front XO, and I've got my EMP EDC Pulse OTF. This guy right here, which has as thick of a grind as you would expect, is super, super slicey. It is thunderous on the close, thunderous on the open, carries very low profile, just a neutral handle. It does have this little glass breaker that I have a good feeling that with a little Allen wrench or something, I could easily take that off and find a screw that fits that size, a black screw that pocket clip on and not have that, but it doesn't really bother me. But the Neptune, guys, is available in black. It's available in silver. They've come back in stock a couple of times on Maxace's website, and they are $108. That's right, 108. And it's probably one of the finest out the fronts. No side to side, no up and down, nothing outside the normal tolerances, and it's just done very well. So moving on, we come to a couple of knives that have kind of a mixed classification. They could be slip joints, but they have pocket clips, and I don't carry them in a slip. So this is a utility knife that really interested me for a long time. It is a Serge Panchanco slip joint that is a razor knife. So again, we're at the same place, except this one is a very well made titanium and G10 slip joint. Where this blade is designed to fit perfectly in there. So you've got a half stop that's very, very stiff. You've got a whole stop that's very stiff. I'm saying this pull's probably about a 6, but you've got a lot of blade to grab. Opens probably about a 6. The close maybe a 7 and another 6. But if we were going to replace blades, this one's got a little rust on it. Maybe I'll take this Fixies here because it looks pretty fresh. No, it's got a little rust on it. Let's see if we can get one of these carbon steel. These carbon steels, if I don't oil them up, which I don't, as you guys can tell, will rust pretty quick. But I've got more utility blades that I know what to do with. I did give away one of my utility knives tonight. I gave away the little Amazon flipper, which is a great little utility knife. It was my unboxing knife until I got my Amazon titanium Balisong. Again, novelty knives that I use and think are pretty cool. So now all we're going to do is drop this screw in. The small one goes in the back. They're T6s. And then the larger one goes in the front. And then I want to tighten those down because they do pinch that blade, not just between the metal, but between those standoffs. And I push down really hard. I've got no play in the blade. Uh-oh, I do have play in the blade. I just noticed something, kids. This is turning into a disassembly video, and I'm probably losing half of you guys now, but I promise there's some cool knives that are about to come up. Why did that not want to sit flush? All right, you sit flush, because this back has to sit flush. There we go. Because if the back's not sitting flush, the scales are so tight, it won't go through there. But I've got some SK5 blades that are made for this knife. I don't know why the sizing is different with the SK5s. It's still got a little displacement, but we'll see if it creates a problem. If it does, we will put back in our original Fixies, which looks like the same blade that came out of here. Tighten that down, no side to side. It's not rubbing. What was rubbing before was right here. But you've got this really nice finger choil. I put my finger right here, so I'm not going to close the knife on my finger. You've got almost the whole blade exposed to cut with, whether you're doing utility cuts, whether you're doing detail cuts, whether you're field dressing an animal. This is a great utility knife. And when I say utility knife, I carry it as a 5th pocket carry or as a little pocket knife. Perfectly centered, very well done. Orange G10, titanium, just a great knife. Moving on, we come to another knife that could have been a slip joint and is a slip joint, but it's unique. It's unique in that it's a Kizer, and it's unique in that it has a pocket clip. So this knife has a very light pull. The first pull gets you to about right there, which is about, I don't know what degrees that is. But this knife is part of the blade series. It's in grade 5 titanium, recessed stamped titanium clip. S35 VN blade. You do have the blade hole. And what I love about this knife is you've got this choil that actually gives you a fantastic grip while keeping the knife from ever closing on your finger. It's a laser beam. I can use this as a primary carry because even though it's a slip joint, it's a non-locking knife. I'm not holding it back here. If I held it back here, it might close on me even though the little kicker would hit me. But if I hold it up here where it's designed to be held, it's the Vagiano design, it's not going anywhere. It's small, it's slender, it's put together very well. I got a great deal on it. Bought it new. It's called the ZipSlip. S35VN, slip joint, modern traditional, with a clip. So moving on, we come to two knives by the same maker. One I love them both, but there's just a fatal flaw in one of them, or an oversight. So these are two TwoSuns. I'll put the number in the description. I might have them on the blade. This one, the flipper tab, if you look at these, they're the same designer. One of them's a Wharncliffe M390. One of them's a Bowie in S90V. They're both carbon fiber. They both have the same screw pattern, and they're both top flippers. But if you notice, this top flipper comes almost all the way back in parallel, where this one comes up a lot further. I'm sure you guys can see that. Which for most people that wouldn't matter, but for me and my short finger, it makes it really hard for me to do a reach around. I have to give it the old traditional flick, and it's not as pleasant. It's a double detent, so there's no lock. But I'll show you why the other one's so much more pleasurable. I love the look. I love the grind. I love the thinness of the blade. I love the fact that this is S90V. Cuts like a dream. This knife, guys, was a White Mountain Knives knife. I bought it because it was $88 before my 10% discount. The carbon fiber scales have a very, very slight liner to them, but it is a double detent. So once you get, if you can get your finger across there like I can on the other one and just front flipper it, it is a winner. You can also open it like a slip joint. But what I love about it is it's just so snappy. And it's got quality materials, very, very, very light. So much so that I will break out the scale, because this knife is going to clock in at 6.5 inches. And the blade is going to come in right under 3 at 2 3/4. Weighs 1.9 ounces. So if it weighed 2 3/4, it would be our inch and ounce rule. It's much less than that because it's a very minimalistic gentleman's knife. And then this one, by the same designer, has that front flipper tab that I can actually get to. It just is the difference of that much space. I don't know if you guys can see it, but from there to there makes all the difference in me being able to comfortably operate this knife. This one's M390 and a Wharncliffe. Every bit is slicey. I personally like the blade style a little better, but really love to just fidget with this knife. And I'm not worried that it's going to close on my hand because I know it's a double detent. It's also got this fuller that you can flick because it's a double detent. So I can middle finger flick the knife, I can do a reach around on it, or I can do a crazy top flipper thing, which I don't really like to do. But these are two knives from the same designer, and I want to say they are, I don't know if that's a Wong design. I don't know whose maker's mark that is, but I think they did a great job. If I could talk to the designer, I would say, for the love of God, you could add two perfect knives if you just extended this back 1/8 of an inch to make it similar to that. There's no reason that you couldn't do that. It's a double detent. I think it's just an oversight. But those are two really cool knives. Now we're going to branch off because we're almost done. But I also keep two multi-tools. This was my first multi-tool. This stays in the orange case. This is my original OG Skeletool. I bought this primarily for the bit and the bit driver. I bought the bit kit. It comes with a dual-sided Phillips head. You've got this locking little arm here, which allows you to store that bit in there. It won't come out. You've got this little area here where you can store another Leatherman flat bit, and it comes with two flat heads. So if I wanted to switch that out, I simply push that little button. I drop my flat head in there, and now I'm in business. I can go back and I can store my Phillips head over here because they're all flat. And then I have the bit kits. But what makes this knife unique, or this tool unique, is it's very minimalistic. It has a carabiner, so I can carry it on one of my mole straps. I can carry it on my belt buckle. I can carry it on its pocket clip, or I can just clip it to my bag, to my shoulder bag, which is what I typically do. The other one I carry in a little bug out bag, but it's got this externally accessible locking partially serrated blade. So this is the only partially serrated blade in my collection. The knife is very sharp. The serrated blade is one of those things that if I ever needed to come into contact with something where I needed to cut straps or cut a seat belt or cut wood or cut something a little more hard duty, I was not opposed to getting a partially serrated on my Leatherman. But the Skeletool is a very basic tool. It says 7 tools in one, but what that basically means is you've got the pliers, which work well. You've got this little, they would call this a nut wrench because you can adjust it for different size nuts. You've got the little wire cutters that are not replaceable. You've got the knife. You've got the carabiner, which they count as a feature, as well as a cap lifter. They call that a bottle opener. You have got the bits and the screwdrivers, and they probably call that 4 tools. I don't know, but it's very handy. I've used it a lot more than I would have ever thought. I use it a lot around the house, probably as much as I do when I'm out. But the Leatherman Skeletool, I want to say comes in about 79 bucks. I'll leave Amazon links to all this stuff because that's where I picked up these guys. And then fast forward about 6 months, and I was talking to Kevin, Mr. Influencer, and he had a Leatherman Charge Plus, which he really liked. It is a G10, more fully functional Leatherman. You've got 4 external blades. So you've got this 14C or 154 cm drop point, clip point blade, which is very sharp. So you never have to get into the tool to use that, and it has a liner lock. This is on washers. On the other side, you've got this saw, which as you can tell, it's got wood in the teeth. It cuts very well. It's a great saw for using around a campfire, for breaking down different materials. Then you flip it over, and you've got this file, which has what I would consider a diamond file on this side, which I don't know if you'd use for fingernails or if you could even sharpen a knife on that. And then you've got more of a coarse wood file here, which I think is usable if that's something you use. And then the final 4th tool on the outside of this is this rescue style blade. You've got the serrated blade, which is designed to cut through straps, cut through cloth. And then you've got this little hook, which is supposed to be really good about getting behind seat belts and cutting them. So that's kind of what that functions for, is more of a rescue type knife. And then it opens up. I added this clip. This clip I picked up on Amazon. It came with one, and it also came with a little lanyard tube. If you push this here, which unlocks the other tools that we're getting ready to look at, you can push this clip out if you carry it in its pouch. So that clip comes out. You can buy all kinds of clips for this, either from Leatherman or from Leatherman or Donk. It comes with a little lanyard ring that you can clip down in there, and then you can attach a lanyard. I push that in. I get that clip. situated in there, and then I'll lock it back down. It's not going anywhere, and it deep carries. But when I open this, this guy has more refined pliers than my Leatherman Skeletool. They're a little bit more rounded. They have a tighter grip, more of a needle nose grip. You've still got the bolt opener there, and you've still got the wire cutters. However, the wire cutters have replaceable carbide teeth there. So if you were to cut a lot of wire and dull your wire cutters, you could just simply order the replacements, take a T6 or T8, take those out and put them back in. On this side, you've got, on both sides really, you've got a little ruler for whatever reason. You've got centimeters, you've got inches. On this side, you've got centimeters, you've got inches. I'm sure there's some reason you can put them together. However, I don't know what that is because I don't measure much. But the star of this show for me is you've got these rear tools that pull out. And when they pull out, they lock. You'll hear it lock. And this is your unlock button here. But the first tool that I just love are these little scissors. I always used to love little scissors on my Swiss Army knife because they were so sharp and they were so useful. This is the first multi-tool I've seen with scissors about the same size that seem to work very well. And then when you get ready to put them away, you just close that up like so. You push this button here, and it releases all these rear tools. So that goes back in flush. Then you've got a screwdriver tool. So this is a bit, and I've got a replacement bit on my bit kit, but this has a tiny flat head and a tiny Phillips head that seat themselves in this little holder here, so that if you've got to do work on your sunglasses or on a radio or on some other piece of electronics where you've got a very small bit to work with. And then again, to close it, because it locks, you just push this, close it up. And then finally, on this side, we have got a flathead screwdriver slash pry bar slash, you know, little wedged piece of metal, whatever you really want to use it for. Then again, you press this button, it closes it up. And then we come over to the side that I really like, where you've got a simple can opener, which I would probably never use, but it locks into place. So you could go around your can if you were going to heat up some beans or something. And then it's got another bit holder. So when I buy Leathermans, I'm thinking about all the things I'm going to fix with bits. I never do. So I've got a bit kit that I carry with this that has, I think, 24 bits. So I've got Torx bits, I've got hex bits, I've got different Phillips head, different flatheads. Rarely do I need those bits. I can just use the regular bits because I usually carry a knife tool with me as well. But, or excuse me, a knife adjustment tool. But so you've got a lot of nice features here. You've got your bit driver, you've got your can opener, you've got your scissors that work very well, you've got your micro bit driver, your flathead screwdriver, really nice pliers. You can get this in a titanium version. I like the G10 and the black, which was one of the options. I picked this up on Amazon too. And then you've got your rescue blade, your one-handed regular cutting blade, your saw blade, and your file, all of which lock when you open them up, and they do so with the liner lock. So that's the two multi-tools. Moving on, we've got two more, and these are blasts from the past. These are knives that preceded my recent resurgence in knives. This is a knife that's not made anymore. It was one of the first over $50 knives I bought. I think it was about $75. I think I got it from A.G. Russell. It is an old 80s or 90s version of a Kershaw Mini Mojito. The blade shape and everything about it is not what I would normally be into, but what I was into at the time was the SpeedSafe opening technology, which this is one of the early SpeedSafe locks. And if you can see here, you've got this black piece that rides alongside this flipper tab, and it's kind of like a safety, like you would see in a Glock pew-pew. And then to disengage this lock, you've got this bar. This is stop pin, so it's kind of like a spring bar lock. It is on pressure, so you doesn't drop shut, you have to close it. So now I've got a thumb stud knife, whoops, that I can flick out without using the assist. It's locked up because this spring and this ball are pushing the thumb studs back into the stop holes there. And then you've got this really nice, neatly done assisted tab. So if I take my fingernail and just go to the silver side, I can't get it to deploy. I've got to get the whole tab because that black piece sticks out just ever so slightly and it releases that speed save. So I know Ken Onion's made a lot of knives since this, but this one really spoke to me. I'm not crazy about the blade shape, although it's very, very functional. I want to say this is made in the USA. I don't know what kind of steel it is. Maybe March 7th, maybe 1800. But it's got a decent clip. Very unique knife. It's called the Kershaw Mini Mojito. Made in the USA. Full back spacer because it's got a spring. G10 inserts and steel. And then the final knife is my oldest knife except for fixed blades that I keep up at my dad's. This was my OG, late middle school, high school. Lost it in my car. Found it about 4 years later when I went to sell said car. This is my Buck 110. This is a knife that I have done just about everything with. I carried it. I've got a leather sheath that I'd put it on my belt with. I carried it a lot in college. I carried it in high school because we could do that back then. I want to say I got it in the 80s or 90s. I don't know how to tell much about it. It just says Buck 110-1 USA. I don't see any other markings on it that would be identifying. It's got a hollow ground blade there, which I think is 440. It's got these copper bolsters, which have really nice patining, and this nice wood handle. Lock back design, which, guys, we always joke about if you could only have one knife, would I choose this one out of all my collection? Probably not, because it's not as flashy to me. But if this was the only knife I had, and I was doing naked and afraid, or I was stuck on a desert island, this is a great knife. The Buck 110 is a timeless design for a reason. It is a fantastic knife. It served several generations of guys and gals who are knife people. And this is the final part of my overflow. This is case number 4, video number 4. And I can tell you guys have not really enjoyed these videos. They're not getting a lot of views, but hopefully over time you might be able to go back and refer to them. I will take a break from these type of grouping videos before I get into the fixed blades, because that's going to be a whole nother kind of juggling act to get everything out there for you guys to see, because I've got some really cool fixies and I do want you guys to see them. So I'll find a way to break that up, share that with you. But we'll give it a little time before we do that so we can get back to some more regular style videos that y'all seem to like more. But this is the very end of my 4 Apache cases. They're all in there. Case number 1 through case number 4. Each one has 4 videos. Guys, I'm so glad y'all have taken the time to check out my collection, to watch any of my videos. I do ask and pray that you will look out for the guy or gal to your left. I'd like for you to look out for the guy or gal to your right. Please look out for each other. Go forward with love in your heart. Choose debate, not hate. If you're still here and are so inclined, please hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. I love you all. Peace.